There are 185 prisoners on death row in the state of Texas. Paul SLATER, 49 years old, 27 years on death row. According to court documents, SLATER was supposed to meet up with 3 men in July 1995 to offer them some crack. Eric Washington, Roderick Martin, and Glenn Andrews, prospective buyers, arrived with a combined $3,000 in cash. There is a significant disagreement as to what happened after 2 guys in a Cadillac showed up, but ultimately SLATER killed Martin and Andrews while Washington fled the scene. Police located the blood-stained Cadillac a month later. A few weeks later, SLATER admitted to the killings, but he claimed that he did so in self-defense. Although some tests have given him a low IQ score of 63, a 1991 evaluation gave him a score of 77. DARLIE ROUTIER, 53 years old, 26 years on death row. ROUTIER was found guilty of murdering her 2 young kids, Damon, age 5, and Devon, age 6. Devon and Damon were killed in ROUTIER's home by a large kitchen knife, and ROUTIER was stabbed in the arm and throat. ROUTIER informed the police that the incident was caused by an unknown invader. The defense claimed that ROUTIER had no justification for killing her kids and that there were no witnesses, no confession, and no motivation in the case. The prosecution argued throughout the trial that ROUTIER killed her sons because of the family's financial problems, that her injuries were self-inflicted, and that the crime scene had been fabricated. Howard GUIDRY, 47 years old, 26 years on death row. Farah Fretta, 33 years old, was discovered in the garage of her house after neighbors who heard gunshots called for assistance. Even though Farah was transported to Herman Hospital by helicopter, she passed away because she had at least 1 gunshot wound to the head. Robert Fretta, Farah's ex-husband and a former police officer, hired Pristash and GUIDRY to murder the woman. Fretta was already executed and Pristash is also on death row. Eric CATHEY, 52 years old, 26 years on death row. For the 1995 kidnapping murder of Cristina Castillo, who was taken by a group of men looking to steal her boyfriend's narcotics and money, Eric CATHEY, a former mechanic from Houston's 3rd Ward, received a death sentence. He was allegedly the ringleader, but he has consistently maintained his innocence. His lawyers have argued that he should not be executed because of his low IQ on 2 separate occasions. In both cases, though, the case was returned to the Harris County Trial Court. He is mentally disabled, according to testimony from numerous professionals and according to 2 distinct district courts who recommended relief, but the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals disapproved of their conclusions. Carlos Trevino, 52 years old, 26 years on death row. Trevino, who was 21 years old at the time and a member of the Pistoleros street gang, encountered Linda Salinas, a student at Harlandale High School, on June 9, 1996. He had been released from jail a month earlier after serving time for an auto theft charge. On June 9, 1996, Linda, who was just 15 years old, was reportedly spotted getting into a car with a group of young guys, according to court records. Her partially dressed body was discovered in a creek the following day in Espada Park on the south side. She had been essayed and stabbed to death. Although 3 other people were found guilty of the murder as well, only Trevino was given the death penalty. Carlos Ayestas, 54 years old, 26 years on death row. Santiago Panek was killed by Carlos Ayestas when he was attempting to commit robbery or burglary, and he was found guilty of capital murder. Ayestas and a friend went to see a car that Anna McDougal, who lived across the street from Panek, was selling around 2 weeks prior to the murder. While the men examined the car, McDougal spent about 15 minutes inside her home. McDougal observed the 2 guys leaving Panek's home when she returned outdoors. The men explained that Panek had called them over to check out some furniture she was trying to sell when she questioned what they were doing. On September 5, 1995, at about 8:30 a.m., Panek's son Ellen left the house. At 12:23 p.m., he arrived home for lunch and rang the doorbell, but no one answered. He inserted his key into the doorknob but found that it was already unlocked. He entered and noticed that the room had been looted and that things were missing. The state of the rest of the house was largely the same. Ellen dialed 911 from a neighbor, Maria Diaz's residence. He went home and discovered his mother on the master bathroom floor. Her ankles were tapped with silver duct tapes. After leaving Diaz's home, Ellen went back and requested her to check on his mother's condition. Diaz entered the Panek's residence and called her name. She discovered Mrs. Panek on the ground with her face down. She was not breathing, and her face was a dark color. Dr. Marilyn Moore, the assistant medical examiner for Harris County, performed an autopsy that showed Panek had been struck numerous times while she was still alive, causing numerous bruises and lacerations. She had bruises on each side of her pelvic region, just above the hips, as well as damaged bones in her right elbow and neck. An internal examination uncovered significant head and neck bleeding. She developed a second fracture in the roof of her right orbit, which was brought on by considerable force. Dr. Moore concluded that none of these wounds were severe enough to cause Panek's death. Asphyxiation was the cause of death. Police recovered fingerprints from the crime scene. Ramiro Ibarra, 69 years old, 26 years on death row. Ibarra killed and essayed a 16-year-old Hispanic girl, Maria Zuniga, on March 6, 1987. The girl was attacked by Ibarra, which was a family friend, while she was caring for her two young nephews inside her home. Following an essay and beating, she was strangled with an electrical cable. Ibarra was found to have scratches on his face and torso when he was interrogated. Later, Ibarra's skin was found under the victim's fingernails. Once a judge suppressed some of the case's evidence, Ibarra was let go. Prosecutors were able to reopen the case almost 10 years later thanks to legislative improvements to the regulations governing the presenting of evidence. On October 10, 1996, Ibarra was taken into custody while residing in Bell County. Reynaldo Dennis, 67 years old, 26 years on death row. On the 24th of January 1996, Dennis carried out a sophisticated robbery while killing a Hispanic man. Dennis and his brother had set up an office in the victim's building to understand how it was laid up and where the security cameras were before organizing the robbery. On the day of the robbery, they paid the maid to leave the back door open to the building. The victim was shot dead when he was seated at his desk in his Houston, Texas office. More than $250,000 in cash and $4.25 million in diamonds and stones were stolen from his office safe. Dennis disguised himself with a baseball cap and fake mustache and went to the first floor with the goal of erasing the surveillance videotape that had shown him and his brother entering the building after killing the victim and emptying the safe. An unarmed security guard who was there to confront him was shot twice and left for dead. After removing the videotape from the security camera, Dennis ran away. Once a gunsmith who created a silencer for the 9mm pistol Dennis used in the heist went to the police, Dennis was apprehended. The wounded security guard made a full recovery as well and also recognized Dennis as the shooter. Jeffrey Wood, 50 years old, 25 years on death row. Wood and his co-defendant Daniel Renault had made friends with the assistant manager William Bill Bunker and the clerk Chris Lee Kieran at their neighborhood Texaco convenience station in Kerrville, Texas. The four of them had discussed planning a heist to divide the loot 4 ways after the holiday season, and Bunker had divulged intimate knowledge to Renault and Wood about the store's safe and CCTV recording technology. When Kieran decided not to participate, Wood did too. Later, Bunker claimed in court that he never informed Renault that he was also giving up the scheme. In spite of his involvement in the scheme to defraud the store, Bunker was never charged as a party to the crime, even though he could have stopped Kieran from dying, according to a police report. Renault and Wood left for Devine, Texas on January 2, 1996 to return Wood's brother's truck. They drove to the Texaco station before leaving Kerrville, and Wood thought Renault was going into the store to buy drinks and snacks. Kieran was instructed to go to the back office by Renault as soon as he entered the store, pointing a gun at him. Renault shot Kieran in the face after he refused to cooperate. Wood exited the truck after hearing a shot, entered the store, and was confronted by Renault, who demanded that he help him under duress. He also threatened to kill Wood's girlfriend and daughter if he didn't. About $11,000 in cash and checks were kept in the safe and cash box. On the day of the murder, Wood and Renault were both taken into custody. Renault had thrown the murder weapon from the truck in Val Verde County and Wood helped the police find it. Renault was executed in 2002 after confessing to shooting Chris Kieran to death. Brittany Holberg, 50 years old, 25 years on death row. Holberg killed and robbed an 80-year-old white man inside his home. The victim received roughly 60 stabbings as well as a hammer blow. A fork, a butcher knife, a grapefruit knife, and paring knife were tools that she used. The victim's throat had been forced down more than 5 inches by a lamppost. Brittany Holberg, a sex worker, was hired by Towery. According to defense attorney Catherine Brown Dodson, Towery was falsely portrayed as an elderly man who was innocent during the trial, and Holberg acted in self-defense when Towery attacked her. A.B. Towery, the victim, reportedly struggled with drug addiction as well. His son, Russell Towery, testified that his father had once drawn a knife on him in a fit of rage. Further evidence also revealed the victim's violent background with his ex-wife and children. Given that there is sufficient evidence to suggest that Holberg may have actually acted in self-defense, this case seems to fall into a more gray area. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.